Hello, it's Jimmy. Today I want to talk about budgeting. And for me, it'll be fun and easy because I like budgets. I get geeked up about it. These are the balance sheets from every month since 2003 that I've been keeping track. I have about 250 of these sheets. Put them in this nice binder. At the end of the month, I print it out, and then I have an idea of what my budget was and where I spent money and where all of our assets are, assets and liabilities. We don't have any liabilities now, it's all assets. Just going through, it's kind of fun. Looking at March 2008, we ended the month with a net worth of $24,000. It's a little bit more than that now, but it's really neat to see. This is how I keep track of progress. And when we were paying down debt, we could watch that number fall for each one of those categories or each one of those debts. Well, first, I want to talk about the word itself, budget. I think it's been pretty maligned in our culture. It doesn't necessarily mean what I think it should mean. It has come to mean that you're thrifty, perhaps, or that you don't have the money to do certain things. Really, it's not a negative word. If somebody's like, well, I'm on a budget, I can't do this or that they might be restricting themselves. A budget is simply a tool to measure progress and track spending. I think the word budget and diet are closely related in this regard. No matter what you're eating, good or bad, that is your diet. Similarly, for budgeting, whatever your income is and whatever you're spending it on, that's your budget. Whether you're tracking it or it's intentional, that's the budget you're living within. Now, I know that in our culture, financial literacy is pretty much non-existent, so people don't know what the word budget should mean. It certainly was my case until I sat down and really did one to understand. It's a progress report on where you are financially. Another part of that, I think, is the rampant over consumerism. People keep buying stuff that they really probably don't need, and in some cases maybe don't even want, but it's just the thing to do. I know, like this morning, I needed to get a couple things off of Amazon. There's some things I wanted. I can live without them, certainly, but I found myself looking at some stuff that was like, wow, this is kind of cool, but I didn't need it, nor did I want it. So I quickly got out of there just so I wouldn't be tempted to get some junk. Now, some folks may think that a budget is constraining. I don't feel that way at all. I think it's a little bit more freeing because I can budget into categories for things that I want, for things that I need. We know certain things will be coming up next month that we'll need to spend money on, and there's other things that we don't. So the budget is the way to kind of anticipate what's coming up. And because we don't use credit at all, we have to have the cash in hand, which isn't a problem. But if I know a bigger expense is coming up than what we can cover in the checking account, well, I'll need to plan on transferring some money either from our savings or money market, or if I need to sell some shares of a mutual fund, that's stuff that I do need to anticipate. So there might be a little bit more work involved living on a budget in this regard, but it's a lot easier than dealing with the cleanup of using a credit card to buy stuff, or 90 days, no payments. You can come up with the cash in the meantime, but whoever really does that. Now, obviously, I enjoy doing budgets and keeping track, and every month printing off the little balance statement. Early on, before 2016, 2015 for sure, it was more of a like spending tracker and a loose budget. We weren't as solid, in following our own guidelines, we'll say, back then. Now, I've worked with budgets in my career and some volunteer organizations that I've helped out with. And of course, in a business sense, you need a budget for your finances. Your projects won't go anywhere if you don't have them. And I think it's the same for your personal life. It was for us. I think it's just something that needs to be done. Everybody should be doing this. At a minimum, don't feel restricted by it, but, keep track of where your money is going. You'd be very surprised if you've never done it before. I know at work, if I came into a project and just said, you know what, I don't think we're going to do a budget on this, we'll just YOLO it all the way through, that's not going to fly. Businesses need that. You need to be able to anticipate costs as best you can and to have an idea of like, well, is this thing even worth doing? Is it going to cost way more than it's worth? We're not going to get a return on investment. You need to have those numbers in place. Now, I can't track what I can't measure. So the budget and the balance sheets, That's the way I do it. The house that we live in, it was previously owned by a nice family and they had 3 kids. And in the basement, on one of the support columns, they have a growth chart or lines for the height of each of the kids. And it's kind of fun to look at that and see, well, that's tracking progress. I don't know if you can equate that to a budget. It's not like you can tell a kid, hey, you better be 5 feet by Thanksgiving or you're not getting Christmas presents. I don't have kids, so I don't know if that would actually be something you could do to encourage them to grow. So in a small way, that's tracking progress. That's a good start to a budget, if nothing else. The parents that had this house, I suppose they could have said, well, we feel like the kids are growing, but we don't know for sure because we're not measuring them. Well, that could be bad. Maybe the kids are shrinking. I don't think they're supposed to do that. In my life, when I wasn't tracking my spending or my income, things were shrinking. That's not good. The budget is simply a way of knowing what you have to work with within a given time period. I do a yearly budget, kind of a forecast for what's coming up. So each month it's laid out. And there are things that only get paid once a year. I pay the house insurance, car insurance, and a couple other things only once a year. So I need to know what months those hit so I can save up appropriately for them. And like our water bill, that's every other month. So you can't make a template that is very rigid, at least for us. That does not work because every month there's something different. October is a big month. I got a birthday and an anniversary. So usually we spend a little bit more money in October, or we should be, on presents for me. The budget can be modified, but never ignored. That's not going to work. You're not going to be able to track progress if you're not looking at that budget. Like I said, sometimes things are variable, but even during the month, if we start off saying, we're going to spend X dollars in this category, maybe something comes up. We need a little bit more. Well, my wife and I can discuss that and move things around, and we've never had an issue with it. And again, it doesn't make it a restrictive thing. It's more intentional spending. And as things come up, no big deal. We just take care of it. Add to one area of the budget, realize that we might have an opportunity cost with that's going to make us not be able to spend in another category. And along those lines of not having a rigid template, many years I had a variable income. A budget was still very useful because there were months that I knew I'd have more money coming in, so we could set more aside for the months that were a little lower. We know what our base expenses are, and then the variable ones we could float. It was very good. I think it was actually more critical during that time instead of having a fixed salary that you knew you were going to get every 2 weeks, very consistent amount. With the budget, I know what's coming in, I know what's going out, and I can plan my saving strategy through that. And it's very comforting for me to be able to see those numbers. I need the visual. I need to be able to put those numbers down and see where they're going to be. For me, I can't get that stuff to stick in my head. I've heard of people saying, well, yeah, I got a budget. I just kind of come up with it in my mind. I don't know how you do it or if you're really actually doing it. I know I can't. And I have been doing a serious budget since about 2015. There's no way I can keep those numbers in my head. I have a rough idea, but throughout the month, I don't know what we've spent on certain things until it actually goes into the budget sheet. Because I'm well versed in Excel, I love Excel. I probably am in it way too much. I love making formulas and doing forecasts and making charts. So I use that. There's a lot of apps out there now. Every Dollar from Ramsey Solutions is excellent. I've tried that. It's fine. It's an excellent tool. I just really am very comfortable with Excel, and that's what I choose to use. And I can customize it so much more than an app. But I realize that I'm a little different in that regard, that I really love to use Excel. An app like Every Dollar is probably perfect for most people. I think doing a budget is actually kind of fun because it goes back to setting goals. You have little goals for the month and it makes it more fun. I can plan for those little things that I maybe want to get or little trips that we want to do. And seeing that in the budget sheet is just as exciting for me to see there as maybe other folks might be excited or anticipate something if they see it on their calendar. And I kind of like that anticipation. I think most people do. I mean, when you're a little kid and you look forward to Christmas or a vacation, it's the same way. We get that little like, oh yeah, we've got the money to do this sitting in the budget. It's kind of fun. I think there are far too many temptations for instant gratification, for like impulse purchases, shiny things, even online, like I was saying earlier. Amazon's really good for, hey, I see you got this. Other people have been buying this stuff. Hey, here's this other thing that would go well with it. And it's very easy to do that. Now, if I know that I am going to be needing something, I budget for it so that when those impulse items come flying at me, just say, nope, I can use the phrase, I guess, it's not in the budget. I just know that I don't need that item. And a lot of those impulse items just are not great. They're low quality. So many things are low quality these days. It's kind of sad. But if I've saved up money and I'm going to be intentional about what I'm buying, I'm going to look for things that are going to be better quality. I'll take the time to read the reviews and do the research on it. And if I find that there is something that we need, I need to get it in a little better quality. And maybe it's going to take a little longer. Maybe I won't do it this month. We'll do it next month. That's fine. If I can find a better deal on something, to me, that's worth the wait. And again, because we don't use credit cards, I have to research. And I kind of enjoy the process. I will research the heck out of things. But we have to have the money in hand. I highly recommend everybody do a budget. If you've never done one before, start simple, write out what your income is, and then deduct what your expenses for a month are going to be. Even just as a simple outline for tracking your spending, you'd be really surprised if you've never done that before on what you spend money on. And I would say track down to the dollar, get real granular with it. It might be a wake-up call for you. And then if you get into a groove, it takes about 3 months of doing an actual budget and following it before things start to kind of make sense. There's going to be a lot of stumbling around, but if you've never done it, you're not going to be an expert right away. But I'd say just keep plugging away. And eventually, if you get on a consistent budget every month, things will be a lot easier. You're going to realize, like, okay, my situation may not be what I want it to be. Start planning for things, start having those goals, and let the budget guide you through. Well, that's all the exciting talk I've got about budgets for today. Thanks for watching, and hope you're having a great day.